In my last video I talked about fish oil, and I probably should specify that when we talk about oil or supplementing with oil in the average American diet, it should be omega-3 oil. And you can get that from a couple different sources. Plant would be one way. It's usually what people know of as flaxseed. Flaxseed oil, you really have to grind down flax before you put it on your food, and usually it's going to be salad, because when you put flaxseed on a meat dish or a bean dish, it doesn't really taste that great, or it changes the consistency of the product you're eating. It also changes the taste around. Whereas if you put it on a salad, the dressing will taste anything else. And usually with that type of plant-based omega-3, it doesn't get absorbed as well as animal-based omega-3, like fish oil or krill. So I usually will say, if you're going to pick and choose, I'd rather have you go with fish oil. There's also walnuts, and doing walnuts, people are okay with just taking walnuts alone, or raw, or roasted, and that would be fine too. But again, the bottom line with a plant-based omega-3 is that our guts will, some of us won't be able to absorb that at proper amounts. And you have to have a good amount. The ideal would be 1,000 milligrams, I should say, the ideal would be 2,000 milligrams of total omega-3 at least twice a day. And I have some patients who have cholesterol problems and blood pressure problems that push that up to about 2,000 milligrams 3 times a day. But when you get into high levels of omega-3, higher than suggested, you can run into a little bit of a bleeding problem. I don't think that the studies are out there are great as far as finding bleeding problems, but depends on the person. So at the least 2,000 milligrams of total omega-3 in the morning and 2,000 at night. I think every American should do it, unless you already have an anti-inflammatory diet that you're practicing. If you have a cholesterol problem, definitely. So the whole food way of getting to that point of omega-3 would be, you can do it with fish. Fish is it has to be sea fish, not lake fish or saltwater fish. And you can sometimes get it in freshwater fish, but it's limited. And of all the fish, the bigger the fish that you might eat, the more the mercury you have to worry about. So you have to be careful. Plus, that's why I have this in foil. I probably should be wrapping this in plastic, because fish, cooking fish, you'll have the whole house smell like fish for a couple days. So that's up to you. And you usually have to average about 3.5 ounces of fish daily to get 1,000 milligrams of total omega-3. So can you imagine doing 7 ounces of fish 5 days a week? Your house would smell like a fish farm. So you'd always consider maybe going with avocado or going with walnuts, but that would be a lot of volume. And with that volume, to get the omega-3, you might be taking in more calories or carbohydrates. So you have to take that into account as well. And then what are you going to eat the walnuts, what are you going to put the walnuts down with as far as drink, and what are you going to eat the avocado with as far as offset the taste? You have to take that into account. If you want to do fish but not cook it, you can always do herring or sardines. Sometimes you can buy pink salmon. So you have to worry about BPAs, not to get you all confused, but sometimes you have to worry about processing, and you still have to worry about mercury a little bit. But with the smaller fish, you don't have to worry about mercury as bigger as the bigger fish, like tuna or large salmon. So you have to trust in the industry and hope that they're watching out for you. But if you can't do any of that, if you don't like flaxseed, if you don't like walnuts, if you don't like avocado, then you can always substitute. And that's where I think supplementation is a lot easier. Yes, you have to buy supplements in the form of a bottle, but it might be, when you're first starting out, a little bit easier to do it this way versus doing large volumes of food. Maybe as you get really good with cooking and cooking styles and working with the burners in the kitchen, then you can switch over from supplement to whole food, plant-based eating, Mediterranean diet if you can. But if you can't, these are substitutes. One little caveat that I have when you take fish oil, and I do think fish oil will do the trick, and I don't think you have to go with the expensive krill oils, but you'll have, a lot of people will burp up fish, and sometimes when you burp up fish, it's distressing, or can distress the gut. So I learned from a herbalist down in Florida, if you freeze the capsules, it'll stop the burping issue. Yes, you put the whole bottle in the freezer and you freeze the capsule, then it usually stops the burping issue without changing around the absorption of the omega-3. It works. Give it a try. The other thing is, when you buy a fish oil capsule, you have to go with, remember, 2,000 milligrams of total omega-3. And on this label, it might be, you might see labeling that doesn't reflect how much is truly in the capsule. So most capsules that I've seen, the highest amount I've seen is 1,000 milligrams of total omega-3 per capsule. So that means 2 capsules in the morning, 2 capsules at night, at least for me. And for my cholesterol patients, and for my diabetics, and for my hypertensives. So that might be something you have to look out for, and you can't just read the front of the label. So you have to also worry about mercury here too, but I'm going to come up a little closer, and hopefully that'll help you with making decisions on omega-3. But ultimately, the other thing to consider is that when you read these labels, you have to look at the total omega-3 per capsule, and I think this might be capturing it, but I circled omega-3, total omega-3, that's DHA plus EPA. So if you look at total omega-3 per capsule, you'll be able to figure out how much. It's not just seeing 1,000 milligrams on the front label. This happens to be Vitamin Shop. And that's one thing I'll talk about is how do you prioritize where you spend your money. If you have a whole bunch of vitamins, and everybody knows I suggest a lot of supplements, especially when you're first starting out, and then you switch over to a whole food plant-based diet, where do you put your money? Well, you invest your money in a supplement that is for the biggest medical problem, most important medical problem you're trying to deal with. If it's cholesterol, you have to invest in this. For me, it's because I'm exercising and always training, I like magnesium and turmeric, so that's where I invest. I go low end with my oils. This is Carlson. It's pretty decent. Carlson, Nordic Naturals, Now Foods, Whole Foods, pretty decent companies. Vitamin Shop is getting better. If you want to be specific on which companies are good or which companies have been approved, I always suggest my patients check on consumerlabs.com. Independent company, and they test a lot of over-the-counter, because the FDA doesn't test or regulate these things. It's up to the company to regulate their own quality, and sometimes you can't trust that. So this might give you some basic building blocks. But changing around to a whole food plant-based diet in the long run is ultimately what you have to do.